Good morning. It's Wednesday, August 31st. And yesterday on this devotional, I talked about the hidden treasures in God's Word and just the context behind things in the Bible that we don't always see at first glance and how beautiful those are. And so today my Bible study had one of those treasures, and I'm studying the book of Esther. And in that book, this girl Esther becomes queen, and her uncle Mordecai refuses to bow to Haman, who is one of the leaders in King Xerxes' kingdom. And Haman hates Mordecai, and he manipulates things so that the king agrees to essentially annihilate and destroy all the Jews. And the king agrees to this and gives Haman his signet ring, which is essentially like a signature of the king, and says, "Do with them what you would please." And so Haman, they cast lots, which is just like a way to determine what date the annihilation would take place. And then they drafted a royal decree explaining to the Jews what was going to happen and when. And it says that the day that it was written and signed was the 13th day of the first month. And the writer of the devotional had us look back to Leviticus, and on the 14th day of the first month is when Passover begins. And so the Jews that were receiving this, it says that the letters were written and administered into each town and province. So the day that the Jews were reading this likely was the first day of Passover. And the author just talked about the beauty of God's timing, because as they are told that they're going to be killed in months to come, they're reading this history of how God delivered them from Pharaoh and out of Egypt. So at a time when, that's really scary. Can you imagine getting a letter saying you and all your family and all your loved ones are going to be killed in 11 months? But as they're reading this, they're also reading the story of how God rescued them, and how just recalling the past of what He's done. And I'm sure it was so scary, but what hope and what beautiful timing of God to, as that's happening, give them a story that reminds them who they are and who God is. And I just love this. They are ultimately saved throughout at the end of the book, and God rescues them again, and He uses this Queen Esther to do so, which I love. But I just love how God's timing is so perfect. There's a verse in Proverbs about nothing thwarting God's timing, and I love this. It's so neat, and I just love how this is like, reading that, I wouldn't have known. I don't know what the months mean. I don't know the first of the month and the different months, what they are and what they signify, but there's so much richness in all of that, and it just reveals even more about God's character and His love for us. And it's just so, I just love it. So I hope you enjoy that too, and I hope you are digging into God's Word, and I hope it's just blowing your mind.